She's a conservative commentator, a Fox News contributor, and the editor of townhall.com. And according to a friend of mine who's a former Special Forces Group commander, she's quite the shot at the shooting range as well. Katie Pavlich now joining us right here on Montana Talks. Katie, great to have you on the show this morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, is this one of your first trips to Montana? Have you been to the Big Sky State before?
It is my first trip to Montana. I've been to Wyoming, I've been to Idaho, but Montana is on the list of one of the very few states I have not been to. So I'm looking forward to coming and seeing what Billings has to offer and speaking to the students there. So I'm very excited. All
right, great. Yeah, she'll be speaking at the Rocky Mountain College Thursday night here in Montana. So looking forward to that. The title of your talk, as I understand it, from the Young Americans for Freedom chapter, a great group of young folks here in Montana. You're going to talk apparently about the age of entitlement and why college students are becoming slaves to the government. Give us a little preview of your message.
Yeah, so, now more than ever, socialism versus capitalism is on the national stage for debate. Socialism used to be a dirty word and not an economic system that was embraced in America, but now it is, and it's gained traction on the left in the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders, of course, is running for president, and AOC has taken over and gains a lot of attention for the proposals that she's put on the table with the Green New Deal, free college tuition, socialist medical care, which is not care for, allegedly all people. But what they don't talk about is how you pay for it. And the more government we have, the more young people are going to be beholden to the debt that the government will give them as a result of giving these, so-called programs. So, we'll go into entitlements, we'll go into, how Social Security is a racket, how the student loan program, because the federal government has taken over that system, has turned it into, $1.5 trillion in student loan debt. We'll talk about the great ills of socialism and how it actually takes away your individual choice. And we're also going to talk about how, what is driving this idea behind young people and wanting to embrace socialism. And I have some ideas and theories about the way that the millennial generation came of age during the big crash of 2008 and in Barack Obama's presidency. And for 8 years and nearly a decade, they were going into a job market that was non-existent. But instead of blaming big government policies like the stimulus package and the government takeover of healthcare through Obamacare and seeing that it was big government that was stifling the economy, they blamed it on the free market and capitalism. So they've really placed the responsibility for the first 10 years of their working life being inadequate, which is true, not on government intervention and bloated government, but on the free market system and capitalism. And it's an unjust accusation that's been made. So kind of clarifying where that comes from and why free markets are a much better route for individual freedom for young people all over the country.
The way I hear some folks talk about millennials, and I'm talking about folks that aren't even in their 60s and 70s, late 30s, early 40s, who are all practically millennials themselves almost when you look at the actual timelines, they're kind of giving up on millennials. Do you think we should abandon millennials from a political standpoint?
No, I think that's really stupid. The millennial generation is 90-plus million people strong. They're engaged. They're interested in a lot of different social issues. They believe that socialism is a better economic model than capitalism, and allowing the left to completely win that argument would be a huge mistake. Look, you can't blame young people for not knowing what they've never been told or taught. And in our education system, they are taught about socialism and Marxism, and they are taught that capitalism is not a good thing. Well, we need people to go in and tell them why it is and what their options are and compare the two systems in a way that they're not hearing in their K through 12 education or in their higher education classrooms. So, conservatives have a responsibility to go out and make their case and their argument and not just write off 90 million people because they happen to have a different viewpoint.
Yeah, we're talking with, we've only got a couple more minutes here with Katie Pavlich, Fox News contributor, townhall.com editor. She'll be in Montana Thursday night at Rocky Mountain College. When you're a young lady, these young ladies on the Rocky Mountain College have even faced pushback as they've tried to just simply share a different viewpoint. How intense is the pushback to young conservatives, even female conservatives like yourself?
Well, at Rocky Mountain College, it hasn't been as aggressive. And maybe I say that, and tomorrow things will change as we get closer to the event time. But it's a hostile environment. The left is very adamant about keeping other viewpoints out of the conversation for all the reasons I just said. They don't want other people to know that there are different ways to have a conversation, to address issues, because they want a monopoly on the issues. And the way that they do that is by keeping conservative professors off campus, not granting tenure to conservative professors, alienating conservative groups on campus by trying to block their speakers or their funding for the events that they want to hold on campus. I could go on and on about some of the issues that have come up in the protests that have been developed around my speaking engagements, and I would say I'm not even one of the most controversial conservatives. I simply just believe in conservative values. So it certainly is a hostile environment, but as I always say, conservative students come out of college with a more well-rounded education than their leftist liberal students, because they're actually forced to defend their belief system and engage in debate. Whereas liberal students are, quite frankly, very sheltered, and they live in a bubble in their education, and then they get out in the real world and wonder why things are hard.
Well, we still have to remember that half the polling data still shows that half of the millennials choose capitalism over socialism. We've got to remember that half as well. The glass is half full. But on top of that, look at the polling when it comes to pro-life versus pro-choice issues, and the younger people are increasingly more pro-life. Katie Pavlich, Fox News contributor, looking forward to seeing you here in Montana. Thanks so much for joining us on Montana Talks.
Thank you. I appreciate it.